Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To our respected doctor, we are from Group 1 and today in this video, we will be presenting the issues on how climate issues become an important factors on Germany's foreign policy. Basically, one of the most significant difficulties confronting humankind in the 21st century is halting climate change and related environmental changes, biodiversity loss, and achieving a complete transformation towards a CO2 neutral economy and society. We all know that climate change is not only one of the most serious global challenges, but it also provides Germany with an opportunity in their foreign policy to assist other countries and international organizations in dealing with the effect of climate change. Moreover, transitioning to a climate neutral economy provides impetus to the entire spectrum of Germany's bilateral and multilateral relations. In other words, we want to utilize climate change as a trigger for Germany's foreign policy to a greater extent. Furthermore, the Paris Agreement, approved by the international community in 2015 to keep global temperature rise to well below 2 Celsius and if visible to 1.5 Celsius, serves as a fundamental pillar of Germany's climate diplomacy. We can see that true essence of a preventive foreign policy is to avert or at least reduce the effects of climate change, whatever feasible, and above all to recognize and avoid violent confrontation that arise as a result of this crisis. The nexus of climate and security is one of the priorities and factors of Germany's membership in the United Nations Security Council in 2019 and 2020. Climate change negative consequences would worsen exponentially and predominantly affecting poorer and vulnerable nations. Water crisis, starvation, and the loss of livable land areas are among the repercussions as are violent confrontations over increasingly limited resources, culminating in displacement and migrations. As a result, climate change is rapidly becoming an essential focus of Germany's foreign policy.
So I will explain on climate diplomacy action up to the present. Climate change and its impact on global peace and security are already the biggest concern. This applies to both the head office of the Federal Foreign Office, or known as FFO, and the network of over 200 German embassies worldwide. Germany's UN Security Council membership focuses on climate and security. A group of friends from over 50 countries back this endeavor. Their unifying purpose is to strengthen the UN's and other international bodies' recognition of climate change security policy dimension. The efforts in crisis prevention, humanitarian relief, and stabilization already consider and address the impact of climate change as a crisis incubator. The FFO, working together with the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety, is also helping accelerate the global implementation of the Paris Agreement. A bold climate strategy is the best way to reduce climate dangers. They have targeted climate promotion through missions abroad, especially before international climate negotiation together with the Group of 7, or known as G7, and the Group of 20, G20, the informal governing groups that meet annually to discuss global issues. They also work with the host countries on roughly 100 initiatives a year funded by the FFO Climate Fund. So through this climate diplomacy in its aim, Germany's embassies overseas rely on a comprehensive network of connection that includes subnational stakeholders, civil society, academia, and business leaders. Expertise and regular reporting by German embassies and consulate general in their host countries on climate and environment policy are essential for developing and shaping Germany's bilateral and international climate and environment policy. Environmental desk officers have been assigned to integral representation in some countries, which is Washington, New York, Brussels, Paris, London, Nairobi, New Delhi, and Beijing. The Federal Foreign Office also support ministries' international climate projects such as the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation, and Nuclear Safety International Climate Initiative, or the ICI.
As global warming getting worse, climate change will become more and more important in foreign policy. Thus, in this video, we will explain a few things that the German foreign policy of these things it will be important for the preventative climate diplomacy in the future. Firstly is to press for the implementation of the Paris Agreement. Generally, Germany, along with the other nations, signed the Paris Agreement in April 2016. The primary objective of this agreement is to achieve global carbon neutrality by the second half of the 21st century to keep global warming at bay. So Germany believes that when they have future bilateral and multilateral relationships, they should ensure that the Paris Agreement is on the top. So the world needs new foreign policy strategies to deal with the climate change, especially when it comes to big productions. Germany wants to protect the environment worldwide as a part of its foreign policy. So for this, they need to use all of the Germany's foreign policy tools to make sure that the Paris Agreement is implemented and the rest of the world does the same. In this regard, Germany has established the Climate Action Plan 2050, which serves as a guide for the German government regarding these climate issues. So the action plan lays out how the country will meet its climate goals for all sectors, including energy, transportation, agriculture, and others. Furthermore, as mentioned before, Germany needs to do more in their bilateral and multilateral contracts, which they need to keep up at the international level. They should also keep an eye on the major countries that are taking a more critical stance on this issue, which could slow down the progress of the Paris Agreement. Even in the regional setting, Germany should use dialogue and consultation formats to make other states and people aware of the benefits and opportunities of the Paris Agreement and to show that a global change can be good for everyone. Lastly, Germany's technical and political expertise, including in the field of renewable energy, is also well known around the world. So Germany can use this to influence other countries to concentrate policy measures like international climate initiatives that meet to the Paris Agreement climate goal.
We will now move on to the second point, which is climate and security. The security policy dimension of climate change will become increasingly important in the future years and decades. As a result, the Germans seek to methodically anchor the climate security nexus in the UN, the EU, and other international fora, as well as establishing a new foreign policy toolkit, so they can help their partners in dealing with the security challenges posed by climate change. For instance, the government recognized the need for the international community to intervene in areas where climate change poses a danger to people's livelihood before conflicts erupt or worsen. In this context, the Security Council must as well be capable of acting. Therefore, the Berlin Call for Action, which was released in June 2019 at the Berlin Conference on Climate and Security, outlined the right instrument to tackle the climate issues. The goal is to boost the UN's climate and security capacity, both in New York and on the ground, in order to cope with climate-related security issues. The Federal Foreign Office Climate Diplomacy is now working to collect more reporting, improve risk analysis, and operational responses. These include the creation of early warning tools as well as mediations, efforts in circumstances where climate change has resulted in increased resource arrival rate. In an initial pilot project, the Federal Foreign Office is working with the United Nations to conduct a study of climate-related security threats in the Horn of Africa area. The early crisis detection tool developed by the Directorate General for Stabilization will assist the Federal Foreign Office in better determining the impact of climate change as a conflict element and thereby contribute to prevention. In Somalia, the Federal Foreign Office is supporting the UN office in Mogadishu by paying the first UN specialist on the environment and security. In the future, the Germans want to further improve both risk analysis and on-the-ground knowledge in the vulnerable regions. That's all from me. Thank you.
The climate change has made the German becoming more aware about its effects toward the communities outside of Germany. This has pushed the German to take the initiatives in dealing with the issues faced by the outside communities that have been affected by climate change directly or indirectly. The outside communities are considered to face the direct effect of climate change when they face a situation like natural disasters. This is the situation where the German is ready to lend their help in helping those communities. To fulfill this purpose, the German has founded Germany's Relief Coalition, or ADH in 2001, to act as the coordinator for the 23 Germany aid organizations that help disaster victims with rapid humanitarian aid. Through the ADH, they will work collectively in helping with disaster victims. Other communities are considered to face the indirect effect of climate change if they face it with other uncertain situations like the armed conflict. To tackle this issue, the German is supporting the stabilization process in the area that is facing such situation. For example, communities need to face the violence caused by Boko Haram outbreaks that taken place in Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon. Besides, they also need to face the frequent droughts and famines in their countries. To end the conflict there, the Federal Foreign Office of Germany has cooperated with the United Nations Development Programme, or UNDP, to sponsor this stabilization process that has been granted since 2017. Moreover, the German also has granted 40 million euros to support such action in the period of 2019.
Involuntary relocation are all intertwined, posing significant concern. As a result, Germany recognized the need to fill knowledge gap in order to better grasp this connection. Government is concerned about the possibility of demographic growth and increasing urbanization to cause problems, especially pertaining to the issue of climate change. Based on investigation done by the Federal Foreign Office, the global population is expected to increase from 7.8 billion to 9.7 million in the year of 2050. Meanwhile, the study found over two-thirds of the population live in the city. Germany has the largest population in Europe with 83 million inhabitants. Thus, with this big of a population, the government needs to make sure that the growing population will not cause any damage to the climate. This is because increasing global surface temperature might cause droughts and increase the intensity of storm. In other words, natural disaster will likely to occur. The above problem might then cause a lot of more consequences we can never predict. Environmental migrant, to name one, as mentioned before, climate change might cause natural disasters such as drought, flood, tropical cyclone, or rising sea level. Due to this, people will be forced to leave their home region due to the sudden or long-time change to their local or regional environment. In this situation, in order to prevent such problem, Germany has decided to pay more attention towards the environmental issue. With the existing commitment to the platform on disaster displacement and to further intensify their cooperation with the International Organization for Migration under UN High Commissioner for Refugees. Clearly understood that all these factors, which is climate, population growth, and migration, are interrelated and interdependent, with this together or in combination for influencing the making and implementation or creation of the foreign policy itself.
Apart from that, there will be changes in geopolitics as a result of climate change, where the impact might take increasing numbers of states to their socio-economic limits. Exporters of fossil fuels might be getting the risk of losing influence. German foreign policy is strongly influenced by the shift to a climate-neutral economy accompanied by a global energy transition. It will reduce the likelihood of issues or conflicts over fossil resource access and encourage regional collaboration in the area of interconnectivity. However, at the same time, it will introduce new concerns such as the possible destabilization of fossil fuel exporters and the potential for billion in stranded assets. Trade patterns will change dramatically because of the global energy revolution, and a new reliance on resources like rare earth and cobalt may develop. Also, a new market has to be created for the international trade in hydrogen. Thus, this is why the German Federal Foreign Office is working with its partners to
address these concerns in order to ensure that the risks associated with the ongoing changes do not materialize and all states benefit from it. Climate change has varying degrees of impact on countries and areas, which has resulted in geopolitical shifts. States and regions with low-lying coastal areas are disproportionately affected, as coastal areas typically account for a substantial portion of their economic power. Climate change is proving increasingly difficult for small island states and weak states to manage. Not only that, there are cases that social groups with little to poor political influence are disproportionately affected. These groups include everything from patriarchal women to indigenous people who rely on a healthy environment to survive. Furthermore, climate change creates certain fundamental legal issues, including national territory, particularly for small island states that are badly affected, which requires the intervention from the UN. With all the explanations presented earlier, it can be seen that Germany is very committed to tackling the issue of climate change until it has become a significant part of Germany's foreign policy. Germany believes that climate change must be considered in all areas of its foreign relations and is still looking forward to making better foreign policy inclusive of climate change.